coming to us from the great state of Tennessee. He's been writing his own themes ever since he's heard about WordPress and currently works with an amazing team at metacake.com. In his spare time, Randy is part of a group who is currently working to put together WPNashville.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the man you've all been talking to, Randy Hicks.
Hey everybody. So we've been chatting for a minute here. I'm Randy. I'm currently living in Nashville. I'm from the West Coast, Northern California. I say Northern California. Yes, Southern California is not a place for me. People love it, but I spent some time in Portland. I spent some time in Idaho. And I made my way out here because a friend of mine had some opportunities building websites, and I was learning WordPress. It was like 2007. I was like, let's go for it. So we built a lot of themes, and they were not that great. But we were doing things with WordPress at the time. We were building websites, and people were like, that's a WordPress? I was like, well, yeah, it's WordPress. WordPress doesn't have to be a blog. It actually has this thing called a page, and you don't even have to show the blog. And so at the time, people were like, oh, that's so cool. But now everybody's like, that's just common day. And if you think about it, it's common sense too. So WordPress has been what put me back into the web. I went to college and graduated with sort of graphic design, sort of web. I just couldn't make up my mind. And I got some clients after college, and then I realized that I don't like clients. They want everything, and I'm just like, you know what, you're not even paying me that much. And I couldn't communicate, so I was like, screw it. I went back to construction. WordPress, I found WordPress, and I was like, ooh, client can manage. Client can do this. Client can do that. So I jumped on it, and my PHP skills weren't that great, so I just learned. I learned, and WordPress just kept getting better, and I was like, this was a perfect choice, because I looked at Drupal, and I looked at the Joomla icon. And so here I am after 3 years, and now I'm talking about WordPress. It's just great. I think for a lot of people who are just getting into WordPress, it can be a great tool. It has its limits, and they're actually getting bigger and bigger, finding the limits of WordPress. It really just depends on what crew you're working with, if you can handle all of the crazy post-type craziness that can happen to get into the bigger sites. So I work with Metacake. I was doing independent work for a while, and these two guys started Metacake, and I was their developer. Before it started, I was just doing independent contracting, and anybody that's independent stuff, you know that dealing with 7 clients is insanity because they all think they're the most important. Well, they helped me cut that out, and now I can actually focus on writing code and not worry about the next client, like wanting it done 2 weeks earlier, whatever. So yeah, 2007, that's when I got started. WordPress was, there are 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there's a trash can sitting there, but you can move it.
There's another right here.
So yeah, custom theme developing. I like theme developing, like I said earlier, just because I don't have to deal with the public. As you can tell, not necessarily a shut-in, but at the same time, I'm just, when people want something and you don't have time to do it and they're not paying for it, it's like, how do you say no properly? Just say no. But some people can't handle no. So in Nashville, me and the guys from Nashville that are here, we all kind of helped put on the meetup group, and we helped put on the work camp last year. It was our first one. We learned a lot, and coming here, like everything that they're doing is just like really good. Really, like when they are done and everything, make sure to like clap and say thank you and everything, because it's a lot of work to make all of this happen. And when they do it, it's seamless. You're like, you don't even realize it, but it's a lot of work. And anybody that's put on an event knows that. So yes, actions and filters. You will see this little link throughout the presentation. This is where you can download the code, vc27.com, WP .com/WP/WPSTL hyphen 2012. So, and yeah, it'll be on all the slides, accompanied by my nice little drawings, just kind of hanging out. The code is basically what I'm going to be going through. There's a few slides, but mostly code. There's tons of comments. I tried to comment the crap out of it. I write in object-oriented, class style. So the one thing I was debating, because actions and filters, you go add action, tag, function, priority, and then args. Well, it's different for object-oriented. And it could be confusing, but I'll try to explain the differences. But, because I don't want to confuse, I'd rather dumb it down, or I shouldn't say that, because that's not the meaning. But I'll try and, just speak to what's the need. And that's where we're at right here. So I would consider myself, and don't be shy, please raise your hand, well acquainted with actions and filters. I use them on a daily basis. I write stuff and I use them. Okay, cool. I use them, but they're still kind of a mystery. Like, I'm still kind of there sometimes. When it's dealing with arguments, adding an argument and then getting to go in, I understand it. 2 days later, I forget. I learn it again. And then, relative new to the topic. Okay, cool. So, actions and filters, which they're called hooks. Hooks and actions are basically the same thing. I'm going to call them actions because that's what you type as action or do action. Actions and filters are what you could consider a roadmap for WordPress. Anybody that's used actions and filters has probably seen what this little image is. It's basically what happens when WordPress loads. So website loads, what actually happens. You can look and know exactly what's happening. WordPress loads, it goes, hey, MU plugins loaded. It runs anything that's called when that happens. And then it goes to the next one, the next one, and the next one. Most of these red, because I'm going to show this actually in the browser, most of these red ones are things that you typically are not going to want to connect to unless you have an absolute need to connect to them. The first thing that I will ever connect to is after theme setup. Basically, the theme is set up, WordPress has initiated at least your code, and now you can kind of use your code.
Could you turn off the light? It's kind of hard to see some of the text on.
Sure. Cool.
Thank you.
And so it just kind of continues down. I'll show another screen. I'll show the actual page here in a minute. But I put a few of the most commonly used things. I typically will, I will have these in pretty much any code base that I write for WordPress. After theme setup, initiate, template redirect, WP head. Everybody should be familiar with WP head if you've written, well, there's a lot of reasons. WP head is the head of the HTML. So there's a lot of reasons to get into this one. Template redirect, that one has a lot of power as well because you assign a template to a page. This is when WordPress makes that happen. It's like, hey, this page is supposed to go to this template. That's when that happens. Initiate. That's a hard one to describe. There's just too much stuff that goes on in that. So what are actions? This is straight out of the codex. Actions are the hooks that WordPress core launches at specific points during execution or when specific events occur. So that's kind of like the roadmap. You're driving down the highway, you come up to an overpass. That's kind of like a specific point. You can go to the grocery store or you can go to the gas station. Like those are kind of actions you can do as you're going down the highway. The website is loading, and all of these actions are firing. It's like, hey, I'm loading the plugins right now. Next thing, I'm going to go do this. So basically what it is you have the option to write a function and say, I want this function to happen when this action happens. And so that's what is great. It's like the page is loading. I need to go get my options, and I need to do something right now. Or the page is loading. I don't want to use this template, I want to use this other template. Okay, do an if statement and see what's going on. Go get the other template because I'm writing something custom that, I don't really want to put it in admin, but I just want it to happen. So that's kind of the beauty of Actions, is it allows you to manipulate WordPress in many different areas. And so they really are your best friend, especially if you want to manipulate a theme that you do not want to get into their code. A well-built theme has actions and filters placed strategically. Anybody that's used Genesis and looked at the code has seen an example of what I would consider Actions gone crazy. Genesis is powerful. Genesis can be used for some amazing things, but to understand how to manipulate Genesis, you have to understand Actions. You just have to. I built something a couple months, or I'm currently building something, and to get up to curve on Genesis, it took me like 2 days to try and decipher why they were doing what they were doing. And after I figured it out, I was like, okay, this is powerful, but it's a maze. And I did the same thing when I first came up with it, found Actions. I was like, I'm gonna keep the crap out of these things. And a year later, I got rid of all of them because it was pointless. I was doing things with Actions because I could, not because it was actually needed to be done. So there is that. You don't want to go crazy with Actions because you can. How's like?
Sorry to interrupt that.
No, it's fine. Anybody, if you have questions or comments, feel free to just chime in. I am not worried about it.
Thanks. I'm kind of a noob here on this front. How is Startbox in comparison to Genesis?
How's the what?
Startbox.
I've used both, and I am not really too big on using theme frameworks because I have my own theme. It does enough. But it's really just what you're looking for. Does it serve your purpose? Does it do what you're looking for it to do? I think that both of them require a decent, if you're actually writing code for these theme bases, you need to do your homework. If you're running a child theme for a client and you're just putting in the CSS file, then cool. But if you're going to be manipulating the actual theme, you need to do your homework on the parent theme before you write the child theme. Otherwise, you might be turning things off, or turning things on, or rewriting things that are just going to collide with the system. Those things are built with a plan, and you have to follow that plan. It's kind of like the roadmap. So I'm going to show a few actions. So this is the code that I put together. Like I said, there's lots of comments, and it's class-based. So if you're not familiar with class-based, just think of it like this. When you write functions, you have to write these insane names, correct? So that they don't conflict with WordPress. Classes make it so you can write whatever the heck you want, as long as it's wrapped inside your class and you call it properly. So if you're interested in class-based PHP, definitely look into it. It has sped up my development twofold. No joke. I write it once. It takes me a little longer to write it initially, but when I'm done, I don't have to write it again. I have a class for doing options pages. I have a class for building meta boxes. I have a class for a number of different things that all help me build crazy websites. So I wrote some really bad classes though. And I wrote some good ones. So it definitely is a learning curve, just like anything in PHP. It's so loose that you can break it, but it's also so loose that